Now then, how you doing? I hope you're well. Allotments fascinate me. The bigger and more chaotic they are, the better. Old sheds full of gardening tools, greenhouses with makeshift shelves, plants and things to squirt the plants with. There's something very primeval about it all. Well, our local allotments inspired me to put pencil and paint to paper. In fact, I ended up with no fewer than 3 different interpretations of it: a sketch, a watercolour and a line and wash. All because I was struck by the temptation to finish my painting off halfway through by taking an ink pen to it. Whatever was I thinking? Fortunately, I made myself a cup of tea and resisted. Here's a brief look at how each of them turned out, and I'll let you decide which one works best. This is a quiet time for the allotments. It's late January and there really isn't a lot of activity going on. We've had a bumper batch of turnips and the signs from the onion patch are encouraging. For most of the allotment holders though, the prize pumpkins have long been harvested, and other than a little maintenance on sheds and border fences to repair damage from recent storms, and the chickens need to be fed of course, I get the feeling they're all patiently waiting for spring, a few weeks away yet. It may be out of season, but there's still something rather wonderful and primeval about an allotment. Anyone who knows me well will tell you that I'm terrible at making decisions. When presenting me with options, 1 is always better than 2, and if there are more than 3 choices, then it's best to be prepared for a lot of umming and ahhing as I weigh up the pros and cons. Deciding what to choose on a meal out can be positively painful. Why am I telling you this? Well, because I set about painting this scene as a pure watercolour, starting with the loose wet in wet wash you see me applying here, and without any pre-drawing other than a preliminary pencil sketch I'd drawn out earlier, in order to familiarise myself with the subject. All was going well. I like to lift out a few key highlights with tissue while the wash is still damp before pressing on with the task of drawing the major elements out with the brush. A very liberating approach I've always found. No pencil lines that I have to keep within, and a healthy dose of unpredictability to help keep things fresh and spontaneous. So what's the problem, you may ask? If everything was so hunky-dory, surely there was nothing to worry about. Well, I was struck with a great temptation halfway through. That's of picking up an ink pen and finishing it off as a line and wash. And there you have it. I'd suddenly given myself a choice. I didn't ask for it, but there it was. A light, loose, half-finished watercolour just begging to be outlined in ink. Except it wouldn't truly be a line and wash, not in my mind at any rate. One of my criteria for such an approach is very simple, that it should start out with the intention of being a line and wash and not just be a half-completed watercolour that I've grown bored with or don't know how to finish off, and simply drawing around it with an ink pen is the lesser of the two evils. The good news is, despite my dilemma, I persevered and stuck to the original plan, and I'm reasonably happy with the result. The line and wash idea still kept nagging at me though, and as soon as I'd finished the first painting, I couldn't stop myself from wading on back in there, but this time with a very different agenda. A line and wash painting, when it works best, in my opinion, is one where the two elements work in unison. Neither one nor the other is dominant, each informs and supports the other. In a nutshell, I like to approach it something like this. I'll generally start with an initial watercolour stage, laying down colours and establishing basic shapes within the scene, but in a semi-abstract sort of way, where colours are actively encouraged to bleed together randomly, and where unpredictable events on the paper are embraced with manic glee. In the second stage, my aim is to establish the scene properly by carefully drawing it out with an ink pen, making use of anything that occurred randomly in the first stage wherever possible. In the third and fourth stages, I'll alternate between the two, developing the watercolour and then working in the finer details with the ink pen. At some point, the darkest tones will also find their way in there, holding the composition together and creating all the necessary accents and visual punctuation. In general, I consider 4 stages are enough to complete the painting, although I always reserve the right to allow myself an optional 5th stage where the message is dip in at will, where minor modifications and corrections might be made to help tidy it up and pull it together. Essentially, the fewer stages, the better. Remember, the objective is to create something as loose and spontaneous as possible, and preferably erring on the side of understatement. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, then please do hit that like button. The YouTube algorithm will love it, and it'll help me to produce more videos and grow the channel. And I should say all three variants of this subject, the pencil sketch, the watercolour and the line and wash, are available in their uncut, non-time-lapsed versions, along with step-by-step guides to painting and drawing them yourself should you wish. These and hundreds of other similar projects are available to all subscribers of my online tuition service, which starts at a mere £9 per month. Well, full details of how to subscribe to that can be found in the description below. Until next time, take care.